Can you start by telling us about Albert Lea and the people of District 27A? What kind of community is it, and what issues are important to its people?
Well, Albert Lea is a beautiful area. We have a couple lakes in our city, and one in particular, Fountain Lake, which right in the center of our city. It's gorgeous, friendly people. I love it. I moved there for my first teaching job in 1981, and I've been there ever since. And when I'm up here in St. Paul, and you know, it's a nice place to visit, but there's lots of traffic and noise, and I'm just always so grateful when I drive back home and back to the beautiful green area and so on. So it's a wonderful place.
And what are some of the issues that are important to its people?
Well, we're close to the border of Iowa, so we have to be competitive with the state that we're close by. So even things like gas prices were important to people when we were talking about the gas tax, competitiveness economy-wise with businesses and so on. That's always a deal. But of late, it would be more health care. I would say that's the number one issue right now, probably in all of rural Minnesota, but especially in our area. We've actually lost some services from our local hospital. They're getting kind of transferred to a different area, and it's a really key issue for us right now. So I would say healthcare is our number one issue, and then kind of, onto the other issues from there.
Since first being elected in 2014, you've basically provided a weekly legislative update on your member page. How important is it for you to stay connected with your constituents?
I think that's like the number one important thing with this job, and that's why I try to get out and around as much as I can. I go to community events, soup and pie suppers, everything that I can, because I think with my job, I need to keep a pulse on what's going on in our communities, what people are thinking, and it's very, very important. And I'm also of the belief that really some of the best ideas and solutions come right from home, right from the people who are working in those very areas, like education or business or whatever. So I find it very important to keep in touch with my constituents. And it's Albert Lea and lots of surrounding communities too.
I also noticed on your member page, speaking of education, there was a picture of you visiting an elementary school classroom. And as a former educator, and now the vice chair of the House Education Finance Committee, how important is it to make these visits and see things up close with what's happening in today's classroom?
Yeah, it's very important. Just like for the same reason I said, being out and around and talking to people. With education, I want to talk to the people with the boots on the ground, basically, which would be your teachers, superintendents, principals, parents, and students too. And it's still one of my favorite things to do is to get back into a school and see the kids and maybe read them a story, bring my dog to visit. He comes sometimes too. And I still love kids and I love teaching too, but I also really love this job.
And looking ahead to the 2018 session, what are some of the issues that you would like to see addressed beginning in February?
Well, I've got a number of bills I'm actually working on right now. Things like for our firefighters and cancer, trying to prevent cancer for that job. Some education bills, but as I mentioned before, healthcare right now is our number one issue, and in particular rural healthcare. So I'm working on lots of bills with another senator and trying to address things like access to healthcare for rural communities, of course, affordability, and in southern Minnesota where we live, unfortunately, we have some of the highest insurance premiums of even the United States, much less Minnesota. So that's something we need to work on, and prices for care, all those things. So there's a lot of things to address. It's a very complicated issue, as I'm finding out as I'm delving into it, and it's something I have not been familiar with because I taught elementary school. I wasn't an insurance agent or anything or worked with a hospital, but it's been good to get to know the issue and talk to people and try to find solutions that will work for not just our area down in southern Minnesota, but our entire state.
And before we let you go, tell us about Coulter.
Well, Coulter is my big, friendly Shiloh Shepherd. He's about 110 pounds. People call him like a big teddy bear, and I do bring him up to the Capitol when I'm in session, and sometimes he comes to my office. I like to bring him around, so most of my constituents know Coulter. They recognize him before me, actually. And they'll always ask about, well, why didn't you bring Coulter with you? So I think he's the more popular one, and I just kind of hang around with him. But he's a good buddy and kind of my fur kid, and I have 2 cats also. And it's fun to have dogs, you know, and I find bringing them to the Capitol is especially fun because he can just be bipartisan. He doesn't care what party you are, you know, and there's just, people kind of relax around dogs, and we can just talk as people and, you know, gather around a dog we care about and so on. So he's been a good experience up here too, and our local news has even done some stories about him up here. So he's kind of got his own little fan club up here at the Capitol, and he's also my sidekick.